This is Sean with Gate City Foundation Drainage. We're on a job today in Greensboro. So let me show you what we got going on. This homeowner saw me on YouTube and saw us doing some concrete work to correct some problems. Look at how far this concrete slab has dropped. And so what's happening is the concrete has dropped down and now the water's going straight slam into the crawl space. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to replace this slab here. We're going to make it a little bit bigger and we're going to mate it up to the existing concrete because that concrete's in fairly good shape. So that's what we're working on today to correct these flooding crawl space issues. See if we can see this a little bit better here. And if you throw a level on there, you're at about a half bubble going into there's a full bubble going into the crawl space. So you can see right here just how far that concrete has sank. Talked to the concrete guy, he said it's probably because it wasn't properly compacted with base material. So we're going to correct all this today. The first step in this job is getting this old concrete out of here. So the concrete crew brought 2 bobcats. One of them has this hydraulic hammer on it, and so the one bobcat breaks up the concrete, and then the other one is going to scoop up the chunks and load it into the dump truck for recycling. And I think that's a load ready for recycling. The first dump truck just went for concrete recycling, and so now they have to unload their gravel so that this dump truck can then take concrete. So this is what we call musical materials. Concrete can be a huge problem or solution for drainage issues. And so anytime we replace concrete like we're doing in this job, I always talk to the customer and ask them, do you want to make the concrete area bigger? And so in this case, not only are we replacing this concrete that is flooding the crawl space, but we're also going to give them a little sitting/patio area up above the parking area. And so we're working on this concrete, so if the customer wants a little bit larger area of concrete, now's the time to do it. we've got everything formed up and the concrete just arrived. So we've got a couple of stakes here. That's going to show us our elevation. We're getting some plastic up to protect the brick. Got everything formed up. And I also wanted to show you, they cut this edge right here, and then they leave this concrete. This is like a sacrificial strip right here. So when they're running their machines back and forth, they're not chipping this nice clean edge. And so once we get our concrete up to here, so this will all come out of here. The homeowner didn't want this giant concrete truck running on this existing pavement, so you can see we got a couple cracks. It's not in terrible shape, so we're not trying to break it up any more than it already is. So we're going to be running loads with the Bobcat and with the concrete buggy. We just emptied the first concrete truck, so that's 11 yards. And it's starting to look pretty good. You can definitely see that it's falling away from the house now. So we ordered in the next truck, another 4.5 yards, and we'll be rolling. Alright, the concrete guys just finished the second truck. That was another 4.5 yards. So that completes the pour. So now we're just getting cleaned up, and we're going to let that concrete set up a little bit. They brought a power float since it's hot out, and it's setting up a little bit faster than working with it by hand. That's good. I hope he's not stuck. He backed right into that mud. Nice. That's good. That's good. That old dump truck has a PTO drive and it just goes so fast. It's an awesome old truck. Of course, I'm painting my trailer, so that's right in the way. So that's the dirt that came out of today's job, and you can imagine how much dirt we've been hauling over here. I am back out here on the job and spent a few days, and we're here to do the finish grading, and it's got a little bit of rain going on. I brought Jeremy with me, so we're going to get this all finished today. We've probably got a little bit of extra dirt here, and so the homeowner wants it back in the back there. There's like a small depression over there, but I wanted to check on this and see how it's doing. So it looks like we have some pretty good dry line over here. The gutter is pretty much just draining down here, and the reason we didn't put a pipe under here is there's just nowhere to take it. The front is pretty flat, there's no drainage ditch, and so to be a pipe underneath the 4 inches of concrete would have been just in a hole out there. So this is a good example of us using the concrete as part of the drainage system. And this, of course, was where the old concrete was caved in and water was going into the crawl space. So now we have a nice dry line right there, and that's what we're looking for. I forgot to mention during the pour and during the tear out that this cable right here, somebody, I guess a few months ago, was digging over here and broke the internet line, and so the cable people came and ran this temporary line, and I guess they were supposed to bury it within 5 days, the homeowner said, and it's been months. And so it kind of worked out for us because we can just move it out of the way and didn't have to worry about it. But there were a ton of cables and lines in there, old stuff. Here's one right here. And none of that was all old, so having the cable open and not buried worked out for us in this instance. We just finished with our final finish grading here, so everything's looking pretty good. We used the Harley rake. Some of the extra dirt we just hauled over to where the customer wanted it, and so now we're going to blow off all these little crumbs with the leaf blower and then seed and straw, and this job will be finished. The customer asked for the extra dirt to be brought over here in this area and leveled out as best we could, he pretty much said. So let me show you how we do a little bit better. Okay, the customer wasn't really too worried about that, but it looks a little bit better. And if he ever does want to move this around, it's easier to rake it and shovel it now that it's broken up. We are finished with this job, and not a moment too soon because the rain is coming back. So let's take a look. I just talked to the homeowner and they're super excited that they not only stopped the water from going in right here and solved that issue, but that they got a much bigger outdoor living space. So anytime I do concrete like this, I always talk to the customer and say, do you want to make it bigger? Because when we're here, before we order the concrete, it's fairly inexpensive to add a little bit on. Now I wanted to take a look at this really quickly. So this, I told them they could add a short extension here to help keep the water away a little bit, but basically when this is gushing down, a little bit of the water is going back, but it's eventually coming back this way. So I'm not worried about the wetness up against the house there. Let's take a quick look. And you can see that the water is tracing down that way. So I'm super excited about this. They should have really good results for keeping that water coming off the driveway out of the crawl space and on down the way. So we finished our finish grading here. We got everything seeded and strawed. So they were appreciative of that. We didn't break the cable, so that's a good thing. And I guess we're on to the next job.